President Trump commenting on the coronavirus just moments ago, as there are now 62 confirmed cases in the United States. Here's the president.
We haven't lost anybody yet, and hopefully we can keep that intact. There have been no deaths in the United States at all.
The president also going after the media. Much more on that later. But first, he's looking to loom large over another major Democratic primary. He's set for a big rally in South Carolina in about 2 hours from now, as Democrats prepare to face off in the Palmetto State primary tomorrow. The Democratic Party splintering as candidates continue to slam Bernie Sanders and warn that his message of socialism will doom the party's prospects in 2020.
I believe that if Bernie Sanders gets the nomination, he will lose to Donald Trump. He will make sure that the Senate stays in Republican hands. He will flip the House back to the Republicans, and even down ballot, he's going to hurt the Democrats.
The fact that someone lists himself as an official independent, not even a Democrat, except to run for the office of president, and then lists himself as a socialist, that doesn't fly.
But Bernie remains defiant on it all.
We are building a movement that cannot be stopped. And when millions of people stand up and fight back, nothing on earth can stop us.
Meanwhile, Joe Biden is looking for a game changer in South Carolina. Strong polling in the state is putting Biden in a good position, but his campaign is still plagued by more gaffes. Biden fessing up that he was never arrested in South Africa while trying to meet Nelson Mandela.
When I said arrested, I meant I was not able to move. Cops, Afrikaners would not let me go with them, made me stay where I was. I guess I wasn't arrested. I was stopped. I was not able to move where I wanted to go.
We're going to get to all of it. I do want to play this sound for you, though, from James Clyburn, the congressman from South Carolina, who endorsed Joe Biden. This is what he had to say about Bernie Sanders.
I was in Texas about 3 weeks ago with Eddie Bernice Johnson, doing a banquet for her. I talked to the faith community down there, and they were very, very concerned about whether or not we'll do something or have somebody on the ticket that will cause down-ballot carnage.
It's interesting that they're talking about down-ballot carnage now, Greg, after Bernie Sanders was in pole position to win in Iowa, and then in New Hampshire, and then in Nevada. South Carolina, he might not do that well, but pulling the panic alarm now seems a little bit late.
This is the big lesson that we've talked about again and again, that the Democrats had 4 years to prepare for this moment and to beat this orange demon, apparently the worst human that's ever lived. And what did they do? They were like, instead of studying for the exam, they decided to play Fortnite in their underwear. They chased these phantoms of impeachment and collusion and obstruction. And instead of like devoting their intellectual energy to actually finding a candidate or figuring out a way behind the scenes, whatever, to deal with Bernie. I think the Dems have they always talk about voter suppression. They should worry about voter depression. Because when you look at that field, it is so flawed. The field is so flawed that you're not looking for a voting booth, you're looking for a bridge. And you're not going to go. So I think that, like, there are going to be a lot of people that just aren't going to vote. Because they're just going to be like, you know what? It's going to have Trump for another 4 years. We can deal with it in 2024. Life goes pretty fast.
And now they're going to have all of these ads, Jesse, that show somebody like a Congressman Clyburn saying that the down ballot consequences of Bernie Sanders would include carnage.
Yeah, Bernie didn't have a good week. I think his Cuba comments and then his math not adding up on 60 Minutes and then at the debate really made people think again what they're doing, and that's why Democrats are rattled. But Joe needs a big win in South Carolina because he's kind of running on fumes, and his coalition really is soft. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to win white working-class voters. And he's gotten walloped by everybody in the field on those issues on the first 3 primaries. And he's supposed to turn out Hispanics, and he lost by 30 points to Bernie in Nevada with Hispanics. He only beat Bernie by 10% with blacks in Nevada. So he's not even spending any money in Super Tuesday. He's only spent $600,000 on Super Tuesday. Bernie has spent $15 million. Bernie has twice the amount of staff he has.
And Mayor Bloomberg has spent $600 million there.
Right.
Here, Geraldo, I want you to listen to Joe Biden talking about how South Carolina could actually be kind of a starting point for him. Let's listen to that.
And I've been deeply involved in this community, in this state. And I feel very good about it, felt good about it from the beginning. It's been the launching pad for Barack, and I believe it will be the launching pad for me.
South Carolina does punch above its weight in terms of these early states because it gets to be crunch time when you get there.
And I think that people are underestimating the impact South Carolina will have on the Biden candidacy. I believe that he will win decisively, and that will change the conversation. The question is, will anybody be focused on politics when we really only care about public health right now? Public health and politics are the same story right now.
Right.
And what people want to know is, how would you deal with it? They don't want to see Biden sniping at Trump right now. They don't want to see Bloomberg sniping at Trump. They don't want to see politicians. I am deeply, deeply distressed by what Pelosi and Schumer did in attacking Trump and undermining the confidence we have in our public health system. This is really, really bad. But I think that Biden can pull off a miracle here. This is Rocky. He's a decent person. He's not my guy. I would not vote for him. Or maybe, I don't know if I would vote for him. But I think that he will, as a result of South Carolina, black people specifically in South Carolina will carry the former vice president across the finish line with the momentum, and that will affect Super Tuesday, even though, as Jesse rightly points out, he spent about 6 cents.
May I respond to that?
Okay.
So just, if I can, so African Americans in South Carolina comprise 60% of that Democratic voting bloc and the most conservative of that bloc. And in the past week, we've seen Biden leading on average between 4 and 20 points and averaging 12. So you could argue that it's his to lose. But at the same time, did you guys see those 2 polls that came out of CNN from Texas and California about Bernie?
Yeah, he's beating.
So yeah, like by a million.
Yeah.
21 points in California and 9 in Texas. So you could argue Biden is saying, oh, that's going to be my launching pad, but will momentum will momentum be enough for afterwards when we're going to Super Tuesday with Bernie looking like the complete king of the...
Can I get one last thing from Greg?
Go ahead. May I?
Yeah.
I believe that South Carolina will affect those numbers. You're right about Texas and California. But because it is so close, 2 days later, South Carolina, the news will all be South Carolina, then it's Super Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see
I do want to ask Greg one last question about the 2 people that we haven't mentioned.
I'm busy tonight.
Yeah, you got a show.
Yes.
Okay. Elizabeth Warren
Yes.
and Mayor Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, you actually did come in second in those 2 contests, but we haven't, we kind of like don't talk about him. Like, what's going on there with those 2?
Well, he's got to go back to school because, school starts. He's going to be a sophomore in high school. You didn't know that, did you? I don't know. I think suddenly, there's a lot of ego going on why people stay in these races. It was the same thing in 2016. It was hard to get people out of the race. You got to push them out.
Well, a lot of campaigns do not end because the candidate wants them to. It's because they run out of money.
Well, Pete's got a lot of dough.
I think on Wednesday you'll see this race narrow.
Here's a dumb question, because I don't know this. If millions of people are voting for Bernie Sanders, wouldn't they also vote for everyone with a D next to their name? That's what I don't understand about the ballot.
I don't think so.
Some people go in and they split the tickets.
I think Trump got a lot of Sanders voters.
Or you could go in, if you're a Democrat, like 18, in our Fox poll, it said 18% of Democrats said they would never vote for Bernie or for Bloomberg. So you could go in and you could vote for your senator and your congressman and everybody and just leave that one blank.
Those people are just crazy.